As Genoa was about to give the signal to begin, a sudden whirl of winds and leaves interrupted them and received the frown from Naruto and Gaara. As the whirlwind settled down, Naruto had to stop himself from looking thoroughly annoyed. Two figures were standing back to back. Naruto meant to decide. He really did want to make a dramatic entrance after all. Kakashi and Sasuke were standing right in between Gaara and Naruto. Kakashi looked the same way as always, while Sasuke had dramatically changed his attire, opting for a darker theme. He wore a black one-piece version of his usual attire, with bandages wrapped around his left arm. Sasuke smirked as he came face to face with Gaara. He had trained heavily for the last month, even mastering a lethal jutsu, a jutsu that would secure him victory. Sorry, I'm a bit late for our match, but we can begin now. Gaara had made it very clear back in the preliminaries that he was very excited to face Sasuke in the finals and couldn't wait for the match. So it came as a shock to Sasuke when Gaara coldly replied, "Move aside, you're in my way." No reply came to his mouth, only snapping out of the shock when he heard Kakashi's voice. Is that you, Naruto?" Kakashi blinked as he came face to face with a face that looked painfully similar to his late sensei. The dots took a moment to connect, and once they did, his eyes went wide. Is that you, Naruto?" Naruto was already annoyed for the interruption, so his patience was sterner than usual. He snapped back. "Yes, it's me. Now would you mind taking Sasuke to the stands with you? You're interfering with my match." Kakashi blinked and turned to Genma. "We're late, are we?" "We're not late, are we?" Anger filled Sasuke's features and he snarled in a whisper, "You can't do that." Oh wait, my bad. Genma gave him his best deadpan look. "You're a bit too late. Actually, Uchiha Sasuke has been disqualified due to being late for his fight and won't be fighting in any of the matches for a chance at promotion. He will only fight in an exhibition match at the very end of the tournament." Anger filled Sasuke's features and he snarled in a whisper, "You can't do that." Genma was impressed with the glare. "Tell that to the Hokage. It was his decision in the first place. Now get out of my arena," he motioned them to. Sasuke turned his snarl onto Naruto. "Move, Naruto. This is my fight." Naruto fired back in a calm manner. "Your match was in the quarterfinals, Sasuke. This is the semifinals. Get off the field." Sasuke almost made to punch Naruto when Kakashi grabbed his shoulder tightly. "Calm down, Sasuke." Turning to Naruto, he gave a nice smile. The whole month, he had felt tremendous guilt for not training Naruto. Seeing this as the semifinals, it was easy to conclude that Naruto had won his first match against Neji. "Congratulations on winning your first fight, Naruto. All the best for this one." With that, he shunshined to the stands with all the Rikis and Jonin senseis. Genma turned to Naruto and Gaara. "Are you two ready?" Naruto nodded while Gaara made his impatient known. "Just start it already. Mother is hungry for his blood." Genma nodded and chopped the air in front of him. "Hajime!" Naruto immediately jumped back. Gaara whispered with a crazy expression, "Make me feel alive, Uzumaki." The cork on his guard flew off with pressure his sand was putting on it. An enormous amount of sand, almost half of it, Naruto estimated, flew out and rushed towards him. Naruto immediately flashed up to 20 meters behind Gaara to avoid it. "It's not enough. I'll have to goad him until he unleashes every grain of his goddamn sand." He pulled out 4 of his Hiraishin kunai and flashed it back to his previous position to avoid the stab of sand. The only thing that he left behind was the kunai, lodged in the ground. He repeated the process until the 4 kunai were scattered in trapezoid position around Gaara. "Don't get me like that. Come on, show me what you got." He then flashed to a kunai to escape Gaara's sand. It was a waiting game for him now. Kage boss. He is not so forward in this fight as he was in the previous one, Hokage Dono. Hiruzen nodded his head. He might be scouting for Gaara's weaknesses to form a viable plan. We'll just have to wait and see. Orochimaru chuckled. Gaara's defense is absolute, Hokage Dono. He would run out of chakra faster than he would find a weakness. Hiruzen smirked. We both know what happened to that so-called ultimate defense of the Hyuga Kazekage Dono. He refrained from chuckling at the silence that followed. Stands. The whole audience was leaning forward in their seats, eager to see the famous Haraishin no Jutsu in action. The rookies were all wondering what the blonde was up to. Ino asked, confused, "Why is he scattering those kunai? It's not like he's using them to attack Gaara or something." Shikamaru frowning as well, trying to discern Naruto's strategy. Just what was he up to? If anyone looked at Sasuke, they would think that he was about to burst a blood vessel on his forehead. His jaw was clenched and his eyes filled with jealousy and scorn as he looked at Naruto easily dodging Gaara's attempts, Sharingan fully activated. What is that jutsu? Is that the reason he's so fast? My eyes can't even begin to trace his movements. He looks as if he isn't even beginning to get tired. I should be the one who knows that jutsu. I can use it to kill him. What does he need it for? Just how far ahead of me are you, Naruto? Sasuke was pissed as whatever jutsu Naruto was using to dodge Gaara's sand. He wasn't using any hand signs, so Sasuke had no chance of copying it. Kakashi had pulled his headband up as soon as the match had begun. While he should be saving it for the invasion, he wanted to see Naruto use his sensei's legacy in action. He watched as Naruto put the kunai around Gaara, but doing nothing but teleporting from one to another. His eyes narrowed as a piece of a similar tactic came to his mind, but could not piece it together. But his side, Asuma spoke up in a grave tone. Gaara will get mad if Naruto keeps doing this. Getting the kid mad is the last thing he needs to do. Kakashi absently spoke up, eyes keenly observing the match. On second thought, that might be exactly what he might be trying to do. The three other Jonin whipped to stare at him with wide up disbelieving eyes. The genin who had heard the conversation as well turned to stare at him with wide eyes as well, but unlike the Jonin, there was a bit of fear and horror in their eyes. Is he mad or what? Ino almost shrieked, but Kakashi was not worried at all. From what he had seen of Naruto up until now, Naruto resembled his father more than his mother, and if Naruto was even half like his father, he had no reason to worry. Arena. He could see it. Gaara was beginning to show signs of irritation at his repeated escape attempts. He had started to flash step around as well, not wanting to give Gaara a pattern to follow his kunai. If he thought that Naruto was only using the kunai to escape his grasp, he just might uproot and throw them away. Gaara was gritting his teeth as Uzumaki yet again escaped his grasp. More sand flew from his gourd as he tried to cover a larger area with it, cutting Naruto's chances of escape. Why are you escaping, Uzumaki? Face me! Now's my chance. Flash stepping to a more cleared part of the arena, he called out, Gaara! Gaara narrowed his eyes, his sand momentarily pausing in its pursuit of Naruto. What is it, Uzumaki? Are you afraid to face me? Or is that why you're running away? To his surprise, Naruto snorted out loud. You think those pathetic attacks can get me? Your sand has yet to even come close to touching me. Come on, Gaara. Unleash every drop of your sand. His words had the intended effect on Gaara. More sand flew out of his gourd, and he uncrossed his arms. His face split into a truly frightening grin. Naruto internally smirked. Just one more push should do it. Naruto spread his arms around. In your own words, make me feel alive. The last part was whispered with a challenging grin. That finally did it for Gaara, an opponent who was asking the same thing he asked for him. This was almost like a rare treat for him. No one asked him to make them feel alive, as he was usually the one to do it. With deadly intent, he whispered, Fine, Uzumaki. He commanded all of his sand to come out of the ground, which was truly a huge amount. It could cover almost the entire half of the arena in ankle-deep sand. He shouted as he spread his own hands, almost laughing. Let's make each other feel alive. Kage Box. Hiruzen was intently observing the match, trying to make out Naruto's plan. Naruto was mad if he wanted to fight Gaara at full power, but there was a glint in Naruto's eyes that told him that this was a part of his plan. Orochimaru was barely refraining from laughing in joy. He couldn't have asked for a more entertaining match. He doubted that even Sasuke could have given such entertainment to him. He secretly signaled for his people to be ready. The time for the invasion to start was drawing to a close. Stands. Every rookie and Jonin sensei watched in horror as Naruto asked Gaara to come at him with full power. He had basically just signed his death warrant. Many thought. Sakura almost shrieked, What is that idiot doing? Guy nodded grimly. I have to agree with your student Kakashi. Fighting that Genin at full power seems to be an extremely bad idea. Kakashi gave no reply as worry began creeping in him. He could only hope Naruto had a plan to deal with that amount of sand. Sasuke intently watched with his Sharingan activated, ready to spot any hand signs that Naruto might weave. He would take any opportunity to copy Naruto's jutsu. Not once did concern rank for his teammate potential facing his death. Arena. The crowd gasped at seeing the huge amount of sand rotating behind Gaara in a form of vortex. Gaara was grinning in a way that would have sent many shinobi running in the opposite direction, but not Naruto. Naruto was prepared for this. Take this, Uzumaki! The vortex rushed towards with the force of a sandstorm. Naruto narrowed his eyes and gathered his chakra. He jumped almost impossibly high, clean above the rushing vortex, 2 Hiraishin kunai in hand. He threw one of them 20 meters behind Gaara, completing the pattern he was going for. Gaara was so deep in his bloodlust that he failed to take notice of the kunai arranged around him in a pentagon. The other one went 20 meters ahead of the kunai he just threw. As he predicted, the vortex changed directions and headed right for him when he was still in the jump. He thought he might have heard someone shouting his name, but he could have imagined it. Just as the vortex was about to hit him, he flashed to the last kunai he threw, momentarily entering his safe zone. Stands. Sakura could no longer hold her concern for her teammate. Everyone watched in horror as the vortex almost swallowed, at which point Sakura shouted, "Naruto!" She practically melted in relief when Naruto disappeared, reappearing at the kunai he just threw. Looking back, she saw that everyone unconsciously relaxed from the tension. Kakashi didn't know he was holding his breath until he released it. He had not seen such dangerous maneuvers in a long time. He was used to seeing his sensei do it like that. But Naruto, on the other hand, it was strangely nostalgic, almost like seeing his sensei in action. Arena. Naruto appeared at the kunai in a crouched expression, serious and eyes set on the sand vortex. Gaara turned around and wasted no time sending the vortex towards Naruto very gleefully this time. He split it into 4, so that it would converge on Naruto from 4 different directions. Naruto only needed 2 hand seals to make this work. He had already saturated the air with his chakra before, so his chance of success were high. Tiger, bird. Water style. Water tornado technique. Naruto converted the entire amount of chakra he had saturated the air with into water chakra. A giant spinning vortex made of water of his own seemed to suddenly come into existence around him. The 4 smaller vortexes of sand crashed into the vortex 4 different sides. Naruto was rotating his water vortex at such a high speed that the sand that crashed into it was dispersed almost instantly upon contact, becoming wet and heavy. Kage box. It is very surprising to see that he has a water affinity as well, one strong enough to draw water from thin air. Wasn't that the Yandame's known feat? Orochimaru asked in genuine surprise. Not every day he met a ninja, let alone a genin, who could perform feats like some of the Kage. Hiruzen nodded, a relieved smile appearing on his face. He did have a plan after all, he mused. Stands. The crowd was cheering on Naruto. They thought that Naruto would escape using the Hiraishin, or worse, get crushed. But then a tornado of water came into existence around him from seemingly nowhere. It protected Naruto from the sand perfectly. The Jonin were once again wide-eyed, including Kakashi. Kunai shook her head. He drew water from the air around him. Most water users can't do even half of what he just did. Guy and Lee were shouting, "Such youthfulness!" Kakashi pointed out to his peers and the genin, whose eyes were wide with wonder at the display of power. Not just that, but that jutsu acted both as defense and an offense in Naruto's favor. Sand becomes heavy when it's hit with water, so by hitting Gaara's sand with water, Naruto neglected the sheer control Gaara had on his sand, ensuring his safety simultaneously. No doubt, Gaara would find wet sand increasingly difficult to control. As Kakashi explained Naruto's move, Sasuke found himself getting increasingly frustrated. Why was Naruto so powerful in comparison to him? Was he hiding this much all along? He had to painfully admit, Naruto had dealt with Gaara much more effectively than he would have. He had nothing but taijutsu, speed, and the jutsu Kakashi had taught him to deal with Gaara, which really wasn't much compared to what Naruto had. His fire was useless unless it was hot enough to turn sand into glass, which it wasn't. He couldn't even copy Naruto's jutsu. I'm not saying that. In addition to the absence of a water affinity, he needed to see all the hand signs to copy a jutsu. Naruto obviously had a very high affinity for water to use a jutsu like that. That too in the absence of water and with only 2 hand seals. He knew Naruto had a large amount of chakra, but this was just ridiculous. He was still not looking winded. He clenched his fist so tight that blood seeped out. The cursed seal throbbed in his shoulder, but he forcefully pushed its influence back. I will make your power, my own, Naruto. Just you wait. Arena. Naruto maintained the vortex for about 5 seconds, after which the sand stopped coming. Dispersing the vortex towards with a flourish, he smirked at the results. All the sand that had been attacked by was now wet, saturated with water and heavy. It won't be as fast as before. Gaara watched in alarm as his sand collided into a vortex that seemingly came out of nowhere. He realized too late, even with mother shouting in his head what Naruto had planned, but it was too late. Almost all the sand was wet now, and only a tiny amount was available to him. The only amount he was able to pull back from before it was too late. He rotated the form of a ring around him to prevent it from getting any more wet. Naruto didn't waste time admiring the effects of his jutsu. Forming the bird seal, he took a deep breath and let go. Water style, violent water wave. A jet of water was expelled from his mouth, heading towards Gaara with great force. Gaara looked stunned as the sand automatically formed as a barrier in front of him, taking the brunt of the water. Gaara hadn't felt this helpless in a long time. Uzumaki had a counter for his sand, which was a major part of how he fought. He could make his own sand, but that took him some time, which he didn't have. He would have to do it nonetheless. He molded a huge amount of his own chakra, sand particles slowly forming in front of him. He couldn't help but let his excitement grow a little. It was hard to remember just when he had let loose like this the last time. Naruto smirked as the last of the sand fell in front of Gaara, wet and unusable. He had taken into account that a sand user such as Gaara would be able to form his own sand even if he neglected it, which was exactly what Gaara was trying to do now. Oh no you don't. Boar, snake, dragon, ram. The kunai finally would come into play. Gaara's choice of standing in one place would cost him dearly. Kage box. Very clever of him to have neglected Gaara's sand, Hokage Dono. I can't help but feel that Naruto-kun is well above the level of Chunin, don't you think? Hiruzen smiled in pride as Naruto used the element of water to completely turn the tables on Gaara. He couldn't help but be reminded of Tobirama Sensei. He was pretty much the same. His mastery of water was so unrivaled that he used to turn the battles in his favor in a place where there was no water. Considering that Naruto now had a Jinchuriki on the ropes without resorting to his own Biju chakra, he was starting to feel the same. Naruto was well above the level of a Chunin. He doubted any Jonin could have turned the tide like Naruto did. Stands. Holy crap, did you see that? Ino shrieked, pointing at Naruto as if she couldn't believe it. Shikamaru slowly nodded, still trying to make sense of how Naruto did what he had just did. He took away Gaara's greatest advantage. Sakura was smiling with happiness. At first, she had doubted Naruto could beat Gaara, but Naruto had shown that he could find a way around the impossible. Arena. Gaara was still concentrating on forming his sand when a light green shield rose up around him. He whipped his hand from side to side, trying to figure out how it came into existing without him noticing. Then he felt it. He knew he was draining his chakra, forming his sand, but the chakra drain was much larger than he usually felt. He then noticed the light green barrier was slowly turning into a darker shade. He looked down at his feet, noticing that he was standing in center of a complex ceiling array shaped like a pentagon. His eyes widened in realization. This was chakra absorbing barrier. Naruto was smirking as he held up the ram seal. Uzumaki Funjutsu, parasitic barrier, was a success. This pentagonal barrier was designed by the Uzumaki clan to suck the chakra right out of their enemy. The best thing about this barrier was the user only needed to spend an initial amount of chakra to simply build the barrier, not maintain it. The barrier maintained itself and grew stronger by sucking the chakra of the people trapped inside. The barrier was designed to be used by 5 people, but Naruto's dad had written in his notes that he was able to use this barrier all by himself with the help of his special kunai. The formula in the kunai acted as a sort of dimensional rift. Instead of sending himself through the rift, Minato sent his chakra to all 5 points, thus successfully setting up the barrier. For Naruto, this was no problem at all. His chakra control was excellent and on a level that he could split his chakra and send it in different directions through a dimensional slipstream without any problem, and he had more than enough chakra to spare. Gaara tried to use whatever sand he had built up, which was only a small amount, to break the barrier. Naruto called out, "It's fruitless, Gaara. This barrier will take more than just physical attacks to break." Kagebox. Incredible. Simply incredible, Orochimaru breathed out in amazement. To be able to use Funjutsu like this, in conjunction to the Hiraishin, it was a testament to Naruto's genius and incredible amount of power and skill that he had. Hiruzen was in the same state of awe, though he was able to keep it to himself. Minato was the only one who was capable of using barriers like this. For Naruto to replicate this feat, it spoke volumes of his mastery of the art. "You have a true gem in your forces, Hokage Dono," Orochimaru complimented, though he was silently lamenting why he could not mark Naruto. Putting his curse seal on a Jinchuriki was something that even he didn't want to test. Hiruzen smiled in pride. "That I do, Kazekage Dono." Stands. The audience was in awe of power and skill displayed by the last Uzumaki. As soon as he had trapped Gaara inside, they had erupted into cheers that could be heard throughout the entire village. Asuma stuttered out, "What power?" He had only ever seen barriers of this magnitude used by a single person, and that was the Yondaime. Kurenai simply gaped at the skill being displayed. Guy was shouting something about youthfulness again, so only Lee was listening to him. Everyone had tuned out both of them. Kakashi gazed in utter pride as he watched Naruto corner Gaara and trap him inside his barrier. "Sensei, you would be proud of who Naruto has become," he whispered. He looked over to see the genuine reactions. Sokka and Iro were cheering loudly, while Shikamaru and Choji were leaning forward with smiles. Choji more vibrant than that of Shikamaru's, interested in seeing what Naruto would do next. He smiled at seeing the reactions. "Naruto, you managed to make your comrades believe in you. Earlier they may not have found you to be trustworthy. However, today, you managed to convince them that they can trust you with their lives," Kakashi thought, pride inside him growing by the second. He glanced to the side and found himself disappointed. He wondered, not for the first time since arriving to the stadium, whether or not he had made the right choice in choosing to ditch Naruto and train Sasuke for the finals. He was beginning to think he may have been wrong after all. Sasuke had clenched his jaw, and he was watching Naruto dispatch Gaara with efficiency he knew he didn't have. Naruto's way had been very professional. First, find the weakness. Second, exploit the weakness and take away the strength. Finally, finish him off. He didn't even have words to express just how furious he was, both with Naruto and himself. He was furious with Naruto for being so much stronger than him. He was furious with himself for being so weak compared to Naruto. He wanted to be the strongest. Only the strongest would be able to kill him. His Sharingan flashed. He wanted to copy all the technique Naruto had to offer and leave him with nothing. Only he deserved to be the strongest, not him. Kakashi shook his head. Perhaps training Sasuke was a bad choice after all. Not surprising, considering the number of those type of choices he had made in his life. Sasuke looked like he would sooner kill Naruto and take his techniques for himself than call Naruto a friend and a comrade. Arena. Naruto watched Gaara drop to all fours, no doubt the result of the barriers absorbing his chakra, which was now a dark shade of green. He dropped the barriers as soon as Gaara looked he would pass out. He ran forward, making sure not to use a flash step. Gaara was breathing heavily, trying not to drop in exhaustion. This was the first time he had suffered something like this, and all because of that dang Uzumaki. Rage began to boil inside as Mother began screaming in his head, "Kill him, Gaara! Kill him! Give me his blood! I want his blood!" "Yes, Mother," Gaara agreed before looking up to glare at Uzumaki, who was about to take Mother's power when he was suddenly sent flying, landing in a heap. Naruto had punched him in the nose with enough force to break it, and watched with some satisfaction as Gaara was sent flying. He landed about 10 meters from Naruto, and Naruto feared that he had knocked the redhead out, but then Gaara stared, causing Naruto to relax a bit. Gaara stood up on shaky legs, which Naruto took as a positive sign to initiate the last part of his plan. His fingertips in the right hand lit up in 5 purple kanji characters, Kage box. Orochimaru's eyes widened in panic. He knows that as well? I can't let him put that seal on Gaara. He immediately gave his signal to start the invasion. Arena. Naruto was about to run and slam the seal onto Gaara, making sure Shikaku didn't come out to play. Gaara felt something wet on his face. He whipped his hand and took a look at what it was. A scream so chilling erupted from his throat, and Naruto took that as his chance. If he was late, he would never be able to put it in Gaara again. Blood! My blood! Gaara screamed in pain. He had never seen his own blood before. He wasn't even sure if he had any, but he knew now, and it hurt so badly to see his blood. His mind snapped, and he only wanted to kill everyone and everything that hurt him, including Uzumaki Naruto. A roar that was not entirely his own came from him. Naruto was 5 feet from Gaara, fingers outstretched and ready to slap it on him, when sand erupted from Gaara, coming from God knows where, in the shape of a hand covered in purple lines, shooting towards him. Naruto flashed towards the furthest kunai, escaping from being grabbed by a hair's breadth. Crap. His danger sense rang, and he turned his head to the Kage box when an explosion took place, and suddenly feathers were falling from above. The invasion had begun, and it was too late to stop it now. Okay guys, that's where I'm gonna end it. I hope you've all enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next part. Bye! Hey, it's Quadix here. I got a Discord server now. I got a couple of mods on there. There were some issues last night and this morning. It's been fixed. Just don't do stupid stuff on there and you won't get banned. It's chill there. I'm gonna be on there every day, so if you want to join, the link will be in the description. Check out my Instagram, the link to that is also in the description. Feel free to DM me, I respond to all DMs. If you have time, please check out my other series. The links to playlists of all the what ifs I've done will be in the description. Check out the community tab, I use that for polls to select what videos I do and more. The link to that is also in the description. Please like, comment, queue as much as you would like, or any other comments you may have, like what if suggestions and more. I read all comments. Make sure you're subscribed. If not, hit that subscribe button. When we hit that 10k, I'll do something. I don't know yet. Now that that's out of the way, roll the intro.
On it, a bitch who was on the move, but you on a goddamn late. Got that one in my bed and she just wanna sleep. Fucking up all of the sheets. She only wake up to eat. Do this shit every week. Like why you do that? Crying you wanna be great, but sleeping until the next day. Why you do that?